I know I need help, but do I need a life coach or a therapist? I'll help you see the difference today. And yes, there is a difference. I know because I've been both a life coach and a therapist. As a professional psychologist, I've got some experience in both of those arenas. Let me help to define for you what the difference might be. First of all, think of your emotions, your mental health, your psychology, your relationships, everything that makes up your experience, basically. If we put that on a spectrum or a continuum, clear over here on the left end of that continuum is the sick end. So that's where we have diagnosis, pathology, treatment, all that fun stuff is over here. What's on the other end? This is where I get kind of excited, because on the other end, well, to understand that, let's go to the middle first. The middle is health, meaning not sick. You'd think that health is the opposite of sick, right? I'm just putting it in the middle to mean not sick. So you could be sick, in bed, fever, throwing up, the whole 9 yards. There comes a time you can get out of bed and you're not sick. But that doesn't mean you're truly fit, thriving, prospering. That's over here on this end of the spectrum. Therapy belongs over here on this end of the spectrum. It is for the purpose of diagnosing and treating disease or disorder or problems. Coaching is on this end of the spectrum. And there's some overlap in the middle. Okay, everybody's got issues. Welcome to Earth. That's how we roll here. There's a lot of issues, however, that we face in our regular life. Stress, mild forms of depression or anxiety, relationship conflicts, questions about life purpose. That's all middle of the spectrum. And I don't think it means that you're sick. Probably means that you're human. So it doesn't really fit well into the therapy category, but it might respond really well to life coaching. So when we ask the question, do I need a coach or a therapist? The first distinction we want to make is the pathology distinction. When I worked as a psychotherapist in my psychology practice, I focused on this end of the spectrum. I would bring my clients in, give them a diagnosis, work up a treatment plan, bill their insurance company for payment, and see if we could work them along that treatment plan to the point where they could get out of bed or no longer qualify for the diagnosis. Well, that's about the same time the insurance company would pull the plug and stop paying for services because it's no longer medically necessary. Well, I knew, my clients knew, that there's more. There's so much more. We've followed principles that have got us up to this point. What would happen if we continued to work toward this other end? Now, it's not therapy because it's not medically necessary. We don't even qualify for a diagnosis at this point. That's where coaching comes in. Now, I have a neighbor who keeps telling me, almost insisting, Dr. Paul, it's the same thing. Well, not really. We may apply some of the same principles. We may talk about some of the same issues. We may even engage in some of the same activities, but it is not the same thing because of the focus and the definitions and the way that that's set up. Now, here's another difference, and you got to watch out for this as you're trying to decide, do I need a coach or a therapist? Therapists, people who work on this end of the spectrum, are licensed to do so by the state. There are certain industries and disciplines that can qualify to become a therapist, which is a licensed activity. You have to have a license from the state in order to do therapy. What about coaching? In most areas, license is not required to do coaching. Now, that's good news if you want to be a coach. It's also the bad news because it means that the whole industry is filled with people who just decided they wanted to do it. Anybody can hang up their shingle as a life coach. You have to go through some credentialing and training in order to be a therapist. And so you have some assurances that if you're on this end of the spectrum, if you're dealing with some mental health issues that need some competent care, you've at least got someone who knows what they're doing. Over here, you don't have that kind of an assurance. And so you have to be very judicious about who you engage to assist you with coaching. Now, the good news and the bad news are the same thing. Anybody can get into the industry. That's something that you need to watch out for if you're on the consumer end and you're trying to decide which one am I going to hire, a therapist or a coach. If you don't want a diagnosis, just realize that in most areas of therapy, that is required and you will probably get one. If you don't want to pay out of pocket, you want to use your insurance benefit, that's not going to be covered in coaching, but it might be covered in therapy. So these are some of the distinctions that you might want to watch out for. You might be wondering, Dr. Paul, why did you shift over from this side over to this side? You know what? Quite frankly, it's because I love it. It's because I get lit up about how people can create and live a life that they love. I'm really good at the therapy end of things. I practiced it for almost 13 years. Doing therapy, helping people to work through the treatment plan and get to a point where they're not sick. And I love that, but not as much as I love this. I love taking people from this point to where they can actually be. And a coach isn't the hero. You think about a sports analogy, for example. The coach is usually on the sidelines, observing, pointing out or bringing to awareness things that the players or the athletes or the performers can do in order to reach a higher level of performance, a higher level of excellence or achievement. That's what a coach does. I'm like the guide on the side that helps them to get out of their own way and go do their thing. Every one of us is dealing with internal barriers. I've been able to use my experience in clinical psychology to apply to this end of the spectrum over here and see some really phenomenal results. It's exciting to see that happen. And I can even train other people to do it. The sports analogy is actually kind of useful. When we think about our emotions, our relationships, our goals, what it is that we want to accomplish with our business or in our personal life. There are things that get in our way. A coach can help us see that and get out of our way to move forward. Just another final note. I have noticed as I've started to train and certify coaches in my models that people who have experience over here, therapists and counselors and mental health professionals, already have a skill set that is well designed to move them over to this end of the spectrum if they choose to go that direction with their particular practice or career. The same tools and skills and attributes can be applied on either end of that spectrum to help people in some phenomenal ways. So the answer to your question might be that you could use both. It might be that you could use a therapist. That's okay. It might be that a coach would be the perfect fit for you. Maybe you weren't even aware that this was an option for you. I want you to look at the resources that are available at liveonpurpose.coach.